Good evening and welcome. This is John Gallagher from Raven, and you are watching and having your senses orally battered by Slade in Oregon. All that is metal. All right! We started as a bunch of kids who really loved the music and loved to jump around playing tennis rackets. We just graduated to real instruments, and then we were writing the music that we liked. Basically, we went on vacation to Spain when we were kids, about 72, 73 maybe. And it was kind of amazing because in the hotel, you know, we had dinner and then they had a band play. And, you know, we're kids, we listened to the radio, we knew what we liked, but we weren't really, you know, doing anything, or we didn't have any guitars or anything. We saw this band play, and the guy's got a Strat, and he's playing with his teeth and behind his head, and we were all like, oh my God. And this is a bass amplifier, and we were doing all our little research. My brother bought a classical guitar from Spain, and we would fight over who would play it, and I'd be tuning it down. And then at one point he came with a kid down the street and said, we're going to form a band, you can play the bass. I'm like, okay. And that was 1974. So next year's our 40th anniversary. That's how it happened. So we're going to form a band. What do we do? I don't know. We need to buy guitars. We need to get amplifiers. We don't have any money. And then all the kids are going, what do you mean you're going to form a band? Who said you can form a band? You have to get permission and all this other bull, you know. It's like, because nobody was, it wasn't like in America where everyone in every street corner's in a band or playing. It wasn't like that at all. We were totally isolated and insular from everything. So, as has been the case, we pretty much did it all the hard way and did it all by ourselves. So. Joe came into the band back in 1987, I guess the tail end of 87 or the beginning of 88. What had happened was we just toured with Wasp and Slayer. We came off the road, we did a showcase for our record company in New York. They didn't bother to come. So it was obviously a case that we were going to have to ditch our record company and change a lot of things. And then we got a message from the drum roadie who told the manager, who told us that Rob was quitting. And that was it. So we're like, wow, all this time and that's all we get, a third party. Say, well, we had drummers before, we'll get another one. So we auditioned a whole bunch of guys, it never worked out. But we were living in this kind of musicians hangout up in upstate New York. Different people would come and go. And one of the guys was Joe. And we were friendly with him because we knew he liked the same kind of music. Knew he played guitar. And it was kind of a no-brainer. So we brought him into the studio and did some demos. And it was like, yeah, perfect. Let's do it. Because being a three-piece, you really can't have any passengers. You know, it just initially put just this room up our backsides, and it's never stopped since. 70,000 tons of metal, oh yes. I thought it was fun. Joe was a little soured on it, I think, but I thought it was fun. The only thing that wasn't really good about it is we had every band played twice. And the first time we played at 3 in the morning, people were literally there in their pajamas, which was ridiculous. And the second time we played, another band of the same ilk was playing at the same time, and it was also dinner time, so it was like 5:30. So that was kind of like really bad planning on that. Other than that, I think it was a lot of fun. And as far as being a punter or going there to see the bands, I would have thought it would be a real lot of fun, because cruises are probably straight-laced and square and horrible. This wasn't. This was crazy. I talked to the purser on the ship. He said they drank more beer and liquor before they left port than they do on a regular cruise. They had to call ahead to Cozumel to restock everything. They were basically dry by the time they got to Cozumel. It's crazy. Community has evolved since the late 80s. I don't know. I mean, for my generation, as it were, with the bands, there's definitely more sense of community. When everyone was a lot younger, there was a lot more sense of competition, and now I think the bands are, the guys are older. In many cases, they've had families, the families have grown up. They really appreciate, speaking for myself, I really appreciate having the opportunity to do what we do. A lot of people don't. We're really lucky in that, and I never forget that. And I think a lot of the other bands don't too. So whenever we play festivals and we meet up with a whole bunch of bands, it's great. And we've got so many friends. I mean, the whole thing with the internet, of course. I mean, we met our producer for the last record, Kevin131, on Facebook. So I would never, and he only lived 40 minutes away from me. I would have never known. But that was instrumental in getting a great record. So it was cool. The internet is very much a great equalizer in that everyone has a voice. Unfortunately, a lot of those people need to have their tongues cut out. They shouldn't have a voice. When we were kids, in order to be a band and in order to play, you really had to work very hard. You had to learn your craft. You had to learn how to entertain. And we went through an apprenticeship. We played in front of punks and skinheads and got spit on and all the rest of it. So, when we graduated to play in bigger halls and sometimes had hostile crowds, we knew how to deal with them right off the bat. Now it's like somebody can make a record in the bedroom and go, oh, we're in a band and we'll play a show, and they just stand there looking at their feet, and it's kind of like just being thrown into the deep end. So the internet, in a sense, is the same thing. It's like, oh, we're a band, and maybe they've got someone who's a great graphic artist and they have this great facade, but there's nothing behind it. And with the advent of things like Pro Tools, a band can go in a studio who are like basically incompetent, and an engineer who's talented with Pro Tools can make something out of it. They can take literally, okay, boom, dun, he can take that and make a song out of it. I've seen it done. Kevin works on stuff. He'll have these bands, so real technical death metal with loads of, kick drum, and the guy's like, so he goes and puts the waveform up and takes all the bad hits out and puts it in a grid and goes dun 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 dun, dun. And the guy sounds amazing, and he can never play like that in real life. So it's like, who are you fooling? If it's a project where you're doing a record and nothing else, great, I guess. That's the difference between, live, which is more like performance art, and studio, which is more like making a painting. You can come back and add brush strokes and all the rest of it, and you've got a finished piece of work. But a live show is lightning in a bottle, and you can only catch that. It's like prepared spontaneity. You have to know your craft to be able to go out there and interact with the band and with the audience to create something special. Otherwise, it's just crap. A part of it that's spontaneous. There's definitely, we'll mix stuff up, we'll put stuff in. Most of the guitar solos Mark plays are off the top of his head. Most of the fills I play off the top of my head. We have a couple of little set pieces, but we'll play around with them. We're not adverse to say, the set list, hell with it, what do you want to hear? And we'll go play something else, Yeah, my brother had a wall fall on him. He was, 2001 wasn't a fun year. First our dad died, we were in England. Mark flew back a day later and got caught in the 9/11 stuff and spent like 3 weeks in Gander in Canada. All the planes were diverted there. So he had that, and then he got home. He was driving early morning, some guy was driving with lights off and T-boned him, hit his head on the glass, had a big lump. He had to visit this guy who owed him money on a job site, building a Walgreens drugstore. He went there and he's supposed to wear a hard hat. He couldn't wear a hard hat because of the stupid bump on his head, so he had his baseball cap on, and it was windy, and it blew his hat off, and he kept trying to get the hat, and it blew it again. It was a gigantic wall about 60 feet high, 4 foot wide, about 120 foot long, and it wasn't braced properly, and it fell on his legs. But if the other stuff hadn't happened, he would have died. So he called me on the phone. Hey, what's going on? Oh, what's going on? Oh, I'm under a wall. What do you mean? This wall fell on me? Oh, yeah, click, No, and it did. And they had to get a helicopter to get him out because it was so dangerous. And first it was he wasn't going to survive, and then it was they're going to have to cut his legs off, then it was they're going to cut the left leg off. And then it was You'll Never Walk Again, and he proved them wrong. It took a long time. We played gigs about 3 years later when he was in a wheelchair, and it was like, is this what we're looking forward to? Or, we really didn't know. So, and then he said, I've got this leg brace. He had this Mad Max leg brace, and we played a couple of festivals. And then we went to Europe and played a couple of shows. And then he was just strapping it up. And to the point now, you wouldn't know. You really wouldn't know. He's like 95% back to where he was. So it's amazing. Pretty inspirational. That's because he's a stubborn son of a bitch, that's why. Working on a new album, and we're probably going in the studio January, because we're pretty much tied up the rest of the year with what we've got going on now. So we always threaten to do some writing on the road, but all it really is God damn it, shut the hell up. It's tough to write on the road when it's hard to write when you're traveling. So we have a few really good songs. And I've got a million ideas, so do the other guys. We just have to kind of get together and boil them down. But we want to just take what we did with the last record, Walk Through Fire, and take the same approach, just raise the bar a little bit. We released the last one on vinyl. They did a great job on it too. Because obviously it's a little longer, they had a single 45 with like 3 songs on it to make the package complete. But it's exciting that they're putting stuff on vinyl again, because there's really no comparison. I mean, we all get dumbed down with listening to the convenience of iPods. It's like, it's great. But you take a song that you're familiar with on an iPod and go listen to the vinyl, or even listen to a cassette tape, it'll blow your head off. And it's really sad that they've managed to hoodwink the entire public. There's young kids now that you play them that and they don't understand. They say, where are my artifacts? They listen to these horrible low-grade MP3s with all that digital in the background, and they think that's part of the music. It's crazy. Last time we were in Portland was 2010. I believe we played a place called the Roseland, and with our old friend Matt McCourt, who used to be in Wild Dogs, opening up. It was very cool. Yeah, we had a good time. We will always play Portland, absolutely. Absolutely. Been here too many times, I've got too many paternity suits, so I have to take care of all of them. So we've always, since I think the first time we played here was '84, we've always had a good reaction, and it's close to our hearts. We like the Northwest. It's cool. I plug in and hit the note, and that's it. I like to jump around and have fun and act silly. It's just the energy of the 3 guys comes together, and it's more than the sum of its parts. And that to me is the true essence of a good band.